We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Glory UGA podcast, brought to you by our great friends at MyBookie. And if you are looking to get in on all the betting action this college football season, all you have to do is go to mybookie.ag right now, sign up for a brand new account, use our promo code UGA, and you will get your first bet fully covered up to $500, guys. It's hard to beat that promo, so jump on it while you can. But today on the show, guys, we're going to have some fun because the time has come for me to unveil my official game-by-game Georgia football 2025 record prediction, and I will be all over that today, guys. We have a ton to break down, but real quick here, all you Georgia diehards out there, I know you're out there. I've got you covered all season long here on this channel with content designed specifically for you by another Georgia diehard. So make sure to not miss out on any of the content. So subscribe right now, hit those notifications. If you enjoyed the content, please like, comment, all that stuff, guys. It's a huge help as we continue to grow this channel. But all right, guys. We've got some predictions to make here today on the show. And I know that we're cutting a little close here. This might seem a little late in the off season. It's even not the offseason anymore now that we're in the first game week officially. But I always like to wait to this point. I like to wait until the beginning of game week, week one, to roll out these predictions because I don't know, guys, call me crazy, but I like to have as much information as possible to operate off of when making these predictions so I can try to be as accurate as I possibly can. Now that we are days away from the first game, at this point, guys, I've gotten all the information I can get, right? We are a couple of days away from the game. We're not going to get any more info, so it's time. And look, no matter what I say today, no matter what predictions I make, I'm going to be wrong. That's just kind of how these things work. Some of you are going to think I'm too low on the Dogs. A lot more of you will call me a homer and think I'm way too high on the Dogs and think I live in fantasy land. And hey, that's all good. It's great to have differences of opinion out there, and I respect everyone's opinion. But agree with me or not, and again, I know a lot of you are not going to agree with me. I would venture to say probably most of you want to agree with me here today. One thing I'm going to do when I throw out predictions like this is support it. All right, I'm going to support my opinions and not just tell you whether I think Georgia's going to win or lose a game. More importantly, I'm going to give you a detailed explanation as to why. You might not agree with that explanation. It's going to be up to you to decide what you think there, but I have real tangible reasons why I'm predicting Georgia to win or lose every game on the schedule. So with that, guys, we do have a ton to get to. 12 games. Now, I will say I'm not going to spend the same amount of time on every team. This is not like a political debate where we give equal time. That's not how it's going to work. So games like Marshall and Austin Peay, we're going to run through real quick. Games like Alabama, Texas, Florida, Ole Miss, yeah, we're going to dive a little deeper on those games. Just give you a heads up there. So game one and game two, guys, let's run through this real quick. Obviously, I'm going to predict Georgia to beat Marshall. Could Georgia lose? I mean, I guess anyone can lose any game. It's college football. You never know these things. I don't like to speak in absolutes. I'm old enough now, getting advanced in my years, guys. I've learned to not do that. Don't speak in absolutes. So I can't say Georgia's going to 100% beat Marshall, but can I say 99.9%? Same thing with Austin Peay, right? And look, guys, Marshall, if this was last year's Marshall, I would say, yeah, I mean, like they might give us more of a game. Like we need to be ready to play this football game. You always need to be ready, but like we need to be on the lookout for Marshall last year. Because last year they won the Sun Belt, guys. That was a really good Marshall team back in 2024. But this is a new year and a very different Marshall team. In fact, this could not be more of a different Marshall football team. So if you guys know kind of the drama, I don't want to spend too much time on this. So their head coach had a great year last year, right? They won the Sun Belt, but the powers that be at Marshall, the athletic department, really kind of slow played him in a contract extension. They just kind of disrespected him. At least that's his view and the view of all of his players. So upon winning the Sun Belt, the dude exited stage left and said, I'm out. Deuces. I'm going to Southern Miss. And like basically the entire team opted out of the bowl and they had to like cancel their bowl game because everyone left. They didn't have a team, right? And so they lost 45 players, guys. 45 players from last year's team. They brought in a whopping 56 transfers to this 2025 Marshall team. They got a new head coach, Tony Gibson. First time in this kind of situation as a head coach. He's been at NC State as a defense coordinator, a really successful defense coordinator at NC State for quite some time. But now he's taken that jump up, brought in a new staff. So there's a lot of unknown, is my point. A lot of unknown. In fact, I don't know if there could be more unknowns about this Marshall team. They do have a quarterback that's played a little bit at the power forward level, played at Syracuse, Carlos Del Rio Wilson, but he was under a 50% passer at Syracuse, somewhat of a dual threat, so there's that. But in terms of like what they're going to do offensively, I don't know. Like we'll find out, right? We'll find out. We'll see. But this is one of those games. Like it is the one thing that I would say, like you watch out for. It's hard to prepare for a team like that when there's so much new. 56 incoming transfers, a new freshman class, a whole new coaching staff. Coach who hasn't really done this before at this level. There's a lot of unknown there, but I'm so confident Georgia should win this game and win this game comfortably, as we'll talk about later this week. Because, like, I mean, guys, you should have better players. Like it's not even close, right? So this is a W, 1-0. Start off there with a nice solid win against Marshall. Austin P. I'm gonna spend like zero time here, guys. 2-0. It's an FCS team, and not even a good FCS team. They were 4-8 a year ago. It is what it is. Georgia's gonna win this game. It's just a matter of like knock on wood. Please God, let everyone stay healthy. That's what we're kind of hoping for these first two games. Win and stay healthy. So 2-0, real quick there. Now let's go a little bit more in depth here because now things are gonna get real. Week 3. The Dogs travel north to Knoxville, Tennessee to take on the Volunteers. And this is an early season road test, guys. This is a clear test on the road inside Neyland Stadium. Raucous environment. We know that. And this is also going to be Gunnar Stockton's first road start in a hostile environment, one of the more hostile environments. I would not say the most hostile environment. As somebody who travels all the Georgia games, and that's for, I don't know, man, forever now. It's tough. It's tough to play there. It's not the toughest. Like I think Jordan Hare, when it's rocking, when Georgia's there, is a tougher environment. Like no shade at the Tennessee faithful. It's a great stadium. It's a great college football environment. It's still gonna be hostile. Like we're splitting hairs here. But with that, Gunner's first start, hostile environment, early in the year, still trying to kind of get the rhythm offensively, maybe a little bit defensively with a lot of the newcomers who got on this team. I can understand why a Georgia fan would have a certain level of concern heading into this game. But saying that, I still like the Dogs to win this football game, making it 5 in a row in Knoxville, in 9 straight over the Vols. And for someone who was a child of the 90s and lived through the 90s and Tennessee just beating Georgia seemingly every year, I relish the win streak, guys. At some point, like I hate to say it, it'll come to an end. Like these things happen from time to time, right? But I cherish every win over Tennessee because I didn't see many of them when I was a kid growing up watching Georgia football. So I am hopeful that we can get to that point. I cherish every win. But all right, the focus this offseason, we know from an X and O standpoint, personnel standpoint, has been on the Nico Iamaleava situation. Obviously, that whole fiasco of now ultimately transferring out to UCLA, and then they bring in Joey Aguilar, basically like a trade, more or less. Not exactly, but it's kind of the effect as they basically trade Nico for Joey Aguilar. Aguilar coming from UCLA to Tennessee, and Iamaleava going from Tennessee to UCLA. So all the focus, understandably, with all the drama, the intrigue surrounding that, has been on the Nico Iamaleava situation. And it's the quarterback position, right? It's the most important position on the team, so I get it. And I'm not saying I haven't thought about that. I do think that's obviously going to be a factor in this game and for Tennessee's season. But my focus, when I am looking at this game and handicapping it, is not been as much on the quarterback situations. I honestly, guys, I think Aguilar is fine. Like he's not elite, but I mean, neither was Nico Iamaleava. Now, I know maybe you could say, well, he was going to take that step this year, maybe. But what did we see last year to suggest that? Guys, he cost them games last year. He was flat out bad. Down the field, like the Tennessee offense, that deep option offense that Josh Heupel runs, it requires a quarterback to be able to hit vertical shots down the field. And they would have shots down the field open at times. Couldn't hit them. I mean, how many did he miss against Alabama? I know they won that game, but they should have won that game easily. He just got missing shots, man. And that was something you saw all year long. The Arkansas game, yeah, they lost to Arkansas last year. Missed a ton of throws down the field. So I don't know if it's going to be that much of a downgrade. Slightly, sure. One thing you say about Aguilar is that he does turn the ball over way too much. Led the country in interceptions a year ago. So if you're a Tennessee fan, that's not great. Georgia fan, love that. But he's a talented guy. I think he's got a good arm. I actually think he has shown in his time at Appalachian State to be a more accurate down the field passer, which actually fits what they do at Tennessee. I think he's a comparable athlete to what Nico Iamaleava is. He can run the football a little bit too. So will it be a downgrade? Probably. He's new to the system, so that doesn't help. But it's kind of a plug and play system, guys. It's like the beauty of that offense is it's simple, and that's not a shot at Tennessee or Josh Heupel. Like Its simplicity is what makes that offense beautiful because they have to be simple to go fast, right? So I think they'll be fine there. I'm more worried if I was a Tennessee fan, which I'm certainly not. If I was, I'd be more worried about the losses along the offensive line and the loss of Dylan Sampson, who, by the way, like let's not forget, was the SEC Offensive Player of the Year last year. That Tennessee offensive line was really freaking good. It's one of the better offensive lines they've had in quite some time, but they lost basically everybody. And now, yeah, David Sanders, like the number one offensive tackle in the country. Good. He's a good player, right? He's probably going to be really good at the college level. That's his first SEC start, guys, against Georgia. That's a tall task, man. It really, really is. But even with guys like the Samsons of the world last year, even with that really good offensive line, the reality is the Tennessee offense has not been the same in recent years. We know Josh Heupel came to Tennessee with a reputation of offensive mastermind, and sure enough, when he gets to Knoxville, he's dropping 40 and 50 burgers on seemingly everybody. Right, first year certainly. And I got the numbers here to back this up, guys. So 2021, his first year in Knoxville, they averaged 474 yards per game, which was ninth in the country, 6.47 yards per play, 39.3 points per game. 2022, they exploded. That was a Jalen Hyatt year, won the Blitkoff Award, and they just took off that year, right? Hendon Hooker, quarterback, 525 yards a game, number one in the country, 7.23 yards per play, 46.1 points per game, which is also number one in the entire country. Those are big time numbers, right? But the shine has come off of that offense, guys. The last 2 years, it hasn't even been remotely close to what they saw those in 2021 and certainly the heights of 2022. And here's some numbers to back that up. So from 21 to 22, I'm going to use SEC opponents. That's what we're talking about here. It's an SEC game. They've averaged 39 points per game against SEC teams from 21 to 22. The last 2 years, 23 and 24, that number's been down to 24 points per game, more than a 2-touchdown drop in offensive production, scoring production, which is the name of the game, right, for this Tennessee offense over the past 2 years. So yes, when I say the shine has come off the offense, that is what I am talking about. It's not the same offense. And guys, this year they don't even have the same personnel that they had a year ago offensively. They have a new quarterback who I think is going to be fine, but again, he's new to the system. Wasn't a spring guy, was a summer enrollee, so a small amount of time to really get up to speed. He won the job, sure, but still going to take some time. This is week 3 that we're talking about here. That offense is probably not going to be hitting on all cylinders at that point, even though it is a kind of a more plug-and-play style offense. Lose along the offensive line, and you start a true freshman at tackle, and you don't have Dylan Sampson. Yeah, you have some guys that you liked last year, and you bring in Star Jackson from Duke, who was their leading rusher a year ago. So no, they don't have anybody, but you don't have Dylan Sampson, who again was the SEC Offensive Player of the Year ago. And so with that, I don't see how this offense takes a step forward in 2025. And I don't think they fixed the receiver issue. Mike Matthews is the guy to watch, former Parkview High School guy. My old stomping grounds. I didn't go to Parkview, but I played them every single year as my rival my entire life growing up. So I'm very familiar with that program. My parents still live around that area in Gwinnett County. So very familiar with Mike Matthews. I wanted him coming out of high school. Think he's a really good player. Didn't really play much at all last year. Was going to transfer. Didn't. So he stuck around. So he might be an answer for them at receiver, but that's a massive unknown. We don't know. The dude that basically did not play a year ago. And if you're trying to account for the drop-off offensively over the last 2 years, well, it's two things. Quarterback play hasn't been as good. They haven't been as accurate down the field, right? Joe Milton, Nico Maliava, good arms, just not accurate down the field. And they haven't had those studs at receiver the way they had in 21 and certainly in 22 with Jalen Hyatt winning the Blitnikoff Award. So they got to fix that. And I don't know that they fixed it this year. And the other thing here, guys, we're talking about a matchup. Football is a game of matchups. They still, under Josh Heupel, have not cracked 17 points offensively against Georgia. They haven't, guys. That's just the reality. So I'm not sure with all the personnel losses why this would be the year is last year, certainly a year ago, this Tennessee team got to the possible playoff on the back of the top 10 defense. They've been led by their defense, which I know is not a Josh Heupel thing to say, but that's the truth. If you really watch Tennessee the past years, it's been a defensive-led team. The offense has been fine, but certainly not elite against better teams. Yeah, they'll put up 50 and 60 against the Western Carolinas of the world, those kind of teams, not against Georgia's. Not against those kind of teams. Yeah, against Alabama in 2022, they went crazy. But what about the last 2 years? So this is a team, when I look at them, their defense should still be good. I just don't think it'll be top 10 caliber like it was a year ago. It was a really good Tennessee defense a year ago. They're losing a lot of impact players. James Pierce Jr., first-round draft pick of the Falcons. Omar Norman-Lott, a difference maker, I thought, at times up front. Amari Thomas, a big space eater in the middle of their defense. Those guys are gone. Yeah, they returned 7 starters ostensibly, but the the guy that's probably the best of those returning starters, Jermod McCoy, who is a star cornerback for them, he tore his ACL in January. It's highly unlikely that he will be back in time for the Georgia game. Anything's possible, I guess, but as of right now, last time I checked, as of like earlier today, he has still not been cleared for full contact. And we're like less than 3 weeks from that game. So I would say it's very unlikely he plays in that game. And he's their best corner. Like it's just, it is. Gibbs on the other side is fine, but he got picked on at times last year, right? So I don't know if he's ready to be that guy right now. So this is a team that will, I think, still be good on defense, just not quite as good on defense. But I do think they're going to take another slight step back in a series of slight step backs over the past couple years. The only thing they really have going for them in this game, if you think Tennessee is a major threat, if you think they're going to win this game, the only thing they have going for them is that it's in Knoxville. Like, and that's an advantage, right? Like, it's a tough place to play, but it's also a 3:30 game, not night, which like it'll still be a tough environment, but not as tough if it was a night game. But here's the thing, guys. All right, yeah, it's in Knoxville. That'll make it tougher than if it was in Athens, for sure. But Georgia has won the last 4 matchups in Neyland Stadium. And not just won the last 4, but guys, it's not even close. The Dogs have beaten Tennessee by an average of 30 points per game in the last 4 matchups inside Neyland Stadium. And I know this is the new year, I know. But again, I don't think there's cause to believe Tennessee will be better this year. Like, why would we think that? So if you are picking Tennessee to win this game because it's in Knoxville, and that's a tough place to play, you might want to rethink that reasoning just a little bit. I'm not saying that Tennessee can't beat Georgia. I think that they've upgraded their talent enough to the point where if Georgia comes in there and wets the bed and doesn't play well, that they can win. Like Georgia, we wet the bed against Kentucky last year, right? But Kentucky just wasn't good enough. They almost won, but they weren't quite good enough to get it done. If Georgia goes into Knoxville and plays like we did like last year, week 3 in Lexington, Tennessee is good enough to beat us, absolutely. But it's going to take that, and I'm not going to predict that's going to happen, right? So, again, that's where I am right now. So, Georgia has a better roster. Georgia continues to be strong in the front 6. If you want to, from a matchup standpoint, why does Tennessee have trouble scoring against Georgia in a way they just don't against other SEC teams? Because Georgia's so good in the front 6, especially in the defensive line, which gives us the ability to stop the run with even numbers, which limits our need to roll safeties in the box, allows us to keep a too high safety shell, thereby making it difficult for Tennessee to create those one-on-one matchups that give them explosive opportunities down the field, which is what they're trying to create, guys. They'll run the football until you roll safeties in the box. Then they get one-on-one on the outside, and they want to hit those shots down the field. Last year, they couldn't really hit them because Nico just wasn't accurate enough. But Georgia doesn't even really give them those opportunities because we're so good up front. And they ran the ball better than they ever have against Georgia with Josh Heupel as a coordinator last year, but the offensive line is gone. Dylan Sampson's gone. So I don't even think they're going to be able to run the ball as well as they did last year. I think Georgia's defensive line's going to be better this year and be healthier. So I think it's just a bad matchup, clearly a bad matchup for Josh Heupel's offense. So yes, needless stadium or not, long story short here, Dogs win 3-0. All right, game 4, big time. We have been waiting on this one for a literal decade. Alabama is going to come rolling into town following a bye week in late September. And guys, I'm going to be honest with you. This is a tough one to predict, man. It is. I've gone back and forth all summer. If you want to say Georgia wins this game, hey, I have a hard time arguing with that. If you want to say Alabama's going to win the game, I have a hard time arguing with that because these are 2 very good football teams that from a talent standpoint, roster standpoint, very evenly matched. 2 of the most talented rosters in the country, 2 of the top 3 teams in the 247 blue chip rate ratio they do every single year. But here's the reason why I've struggled with this pick all offseason. And why most of the offseason I thought I was going to pick Alabama on this show. And I might still do it, guys. There's still time before I roll my pick out here. But the reason I've had concerns, I think justifiably so after what we've seen the past couple years, is, guys, there's no other explanation for this but saying that Georgia has a mental block when it comes to Alabama. We play and coach differently against this team than we do anybody else. From a coaching standpoint, we are not nearly as aggressive. We set back in a soft zone defense for for the first half, especially of last year's game. Play a lot of off technique coverage and gave them free access throws, and they took that all game long. Finally, in the second half, we said, oh, maybe we shouldn't do that. And what do you know? We really limited what they were able to do offensively in the second half. But we didn't come out with that game plan, even though in 2023, we did the same thing with similar effects. They didn't score as many points as they did in 2024, but they still had too much success in the first half. So we just play differently, man. We coach differently, and I can't explain it. I think we put too much of an emphasis on that game, and that is a problem. Like, it gets in your head. It does. It does, guys. If you don't think it does, then I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, I guess you probably haven't played many competitive sports, but that's kind of how these things work sometimes. So, yes, a big part of me all summer was leaning Bama because of that mental component. But the more I think about it, guys, I think the setting matters here. I do. I do. Again, we have not played them at home. And this winning streak they've had, right? We haven't played them home. I guess we beat them in the national championship game. We do have that, right? But that's the one lone victory. We haven't played them at home since 2015. That's Mark Richt's final year, guys. It's been a long time. Honestly, like it is what it is. Since we played there in 2020, I thought we should have played them at home last year. Whatever. It's not the way it goes. We get them at home this year. All right, whatever. But I do think that this game being at home with that crowd behind them will make a big difference for this Georgia football team. Now, people can say what they want about Sanford Stadium being a wine and cheese crowd. That is such a ridiculous narrative. And honestly, guys, I've been going to games forever. So once upon a time, was that kind of relatively true? Yeah, I think there was a point in time. But the people who still cling to that notion, first off, they're just Georgia haters and they want to rip Georgia down. That's fine. But if they truly believe that, they simply have not been to a Georgia game in the Kirby Smart era. It's as simple as that, guys. It's a different animal, especially for games like this. Who was at the Tennessee game in 2022? Tennessee game last year, right? Notre Dame game back in 2019. You name any big game in Athens under Kirby Smart, any night game, honestly, any 3:30 game. For big SEC games, the crowd is bananas. Ole Miss in 2023. It's a different environment, guys. It's not the same. I mean, even Jackson Dart, he's asked, like, and like, players, they say different things, but going to 2024, he's asked, like, where's the toughest place you played? He's like, Georgia, right? Now, the average fan doesn't want to say that because it's popular and easy to say, oh, Georgia just doesn't have a home field advantage. Not true. It's just not true, right? People who go to the games, if you know, you know, right? So when you have two teams where one team is just better, like clearly the home field advantage, like the crowd impact is negated to a degree. But when you have two evenly matched teams, like I think these are, I think that could be a difference. Absolutely can be a difference in this game. Now, from an X's and O standpoint, I spent a lot of time this offseason talking about Jalen Milroe. I know he's limited as a passer. I know that. It was a work in progress, but his explosive running ability, the past two matchups, is, in my opinion, really more than anything what beat us. And yes, we had a lot of self-inflicted wounds because it's in our head. But from an X's and O standpoint, Jalen Milroe's legs gave us fits, and it created a lot of eye discipline violations. Misdirection got us, and we were all out of sorts defensively. It changed numbers in the box, and that was problematic for us, right? It just was. And I've spent a lot of time talking about that. If you want to get more in-depth breakdowns, go to the audio side of things. You have a full Alabama breakdown from this game. But you look at the quarterback this year, Ty Simpson, who's been named the starter. He's a good athlete. He is. If you go back and watch some of his games, like the guy's a good athlete, but he's also not a Milroe level athlete. They can still do some QB run game stuff with him, but not to the degree they did with Milroe. He's just not as much of a threat. He doesn't put the fear of God in defense with his legs the way that Jalen Milroe did as like a thoroughbred horse out there is basically what he was. And now I know the popular refrain when talking about Ty Simpson is, well, he's a better passer. Like, so they're going to be better offensively. Milroe was terrible. Didn't you watch him throw the football? Yeah, I did, guys. He's a great deep ball passer. Intermediate, short range, going through progressions, not his thing, right? And I know some people think, yeah, Ty Simpson would be better there. He's more of a fit for the Caleb DeBoer offense. And maybe he is. But how do we know that? Like, why do we think that? Maybe, right? Is it just because Jalen Milroe is that bad? So by extension, it's like, well, Ty Simpson has to be a better passer than that? Is that what it is? Because we don't have much verifiable evidence to go off of. Like, people are assuming that Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Grubb, that combination at offense coordinator and head coach is just going to fix everything. Maybe. But we don't know that. I had this question all offseason. Why does the national media just assume that Ty Simpson is going to be great, but they have all these questions and doubts about Gunnar Stockton? Even though Gunnar, they both have very limited sample sizes at the college level, but Gunnar's limited sample size is far more impressive than what Simpson's. Now, Simpson's basically been under 50% completion against like nobodies. Gunnar went out and played against an elite Notre Dame defense and performed very admirably, but it's Gunnar we have questions about and not Ty Simpson. I can't quite make sense of that, but it is what it is. But if you look at this matchup, I think the second half of last year could be instructive. The first half was a disaster. Yeah, a lot of self-inflicted wounds, but the way we approached that game defensively, I thought offensively we were actually pretty aggressive. We couldn't catch the football, Arian Smith, but defensively we were way too passive each of the last two matchups to open the game. I mean, we didn't change that approach until too late, and I still don't understand why we didn't come out more aggressive last year after making that mistake in 2023 in the SEC title game, and then adapting and having more success in the second half by being more aggressive, unleashing Jalen Walker. But then we went back and being passive again. I think it's because we didn't trust our cornerbacks last year. I think that's really what it comes down to at that point early in the season, certainly Julian Humphrey. But I think we figured something out in the second half of that game last year. I think we're going to come out finally more aggressive to start the game because when we finally started to play like that last year, guys, second half, we limited them to 187 total yards. 75 of those came on one play. And that's what Julian Humphrey just couldn't find the football flailing around out there helplessly. They had 364 yards of offense in the first half. We really limited them on a down-by-down basis in the second half because we were more aggressive. We got physical. We got up in the receiver's face, which I was calling for leading up that game last year. Ryan Williams, really good receiver, but he's not physical. He's smaller. Get up and bully the guy at the line of scrimmage. And so I hope that we're more aggressive this year. And also, we don't have, I hate to pick on the guy. We don't have Julian Humphrey out there for them to pick on the way they did a year ago. I think we're much better at cornerback. Dalen Everett taking a step at this point. Ellis Robinson is, I think, a guy who's ready to break out this year. If it's Daniel Harris, I saw better things from him than Julian Humphrey at the end of last year. So I think we're going to be more physical with Williams. I think we're going to be more aggressive getting after the quarterback to open the game. Obviously, it's going to be a tough game, a hard-fought game. It can easily go either way. Bama can easily win this game, of course. I got to pick somebody. So for the fact that it's at home, I think we finally learned our lessons about how to approach this game. And that crowd will be, I think, the edge here. So Georgia gets it done and gets to 4-0. All right, Kentucky, let's get through this one real quick. Game 5, Kentucky has face planted on offense, guys, since basically 2021. They have not finished the season averaging more than 339 yards a game since 2021. That's crazy, guys. They're at or near the bottom of the SEC in total offense every single year, and yards per play offense has been bad. We know that. And their answer this year is, checks nose, Zach Calzada from Incarnate Word. And if you're familiar with that name, he's been around for like 7 years. This guy was 2019, his freshman year at A&M, went to Auburn, didn't work out, then went to Incarnate Word, had some good years at Incarnate Word, and now he's making one final jump back up to the SEC at Kentucky. We'll see. Call me skeptical. Now, defense, obviously, with their offense being as bad as it has been their calling card. And that's the only thing they did halfway decently last year. They got a lot of injuries, but when they were healthy, they were good. We saw that week 3. But they lost all those guys. All those guys. They're gone, okay? But Tyler, wait, Kentucky almost knocked off Georgia last year, so why can't they finish the job this year? Yes, they play us tough in Lexington. That is established, right? The 5 games in the Kirby Smart era in Lexington, Kentucky, we have won 4 of those by 11 points or less. We've won those 5 games by an average of 27-16 in the Mark Stoops era and Kirby Smart. In Athens, we have won those games by an average of 38-9, 30 points. So I'm going to lean more towards the 30-point victory for Georgia in this one. So give me Georgia, obviously, here, getting to 5-0. Auburn, let's spend a little more time on this one. I think this is an intriguing game. I have spent the better part of the offseason scared to death of this game. I respect the heck out of that stadium and that environment. Hate Auburn, don't like them, but hey, man, objectively speaking, I think that's the toughest place that Georgia plays on a regular basis. In fact, when it's at its best, and I don't know what it's like when Georgia's not there. All I can speak on is when Georgia's there, and that's a big rivalry, Deep South Souls rivalry. We know all that, right? That place is out of control, right? It's a tough environment. Now, I haven't been to a Georgia LSU game at night. I've been there for a 3:30 game. I thought that Auburn was a tougher environment than LSU. I think it's tougher than Neyland Stadium. I think it's tougher than Bryant-Denny, at least when I've been there, which is like basically every time we played there since 2007 or whatever, a long time, since I graduated college. So yes, I have a lot of respect for that game, at least when Georgia's there. I've seen far worse Auburn teams give similar caliber Georgia teams all they can handle in that stadium. Like, I don't know, the last time we played there in 2023 when we had to make a fourth quarter comeback, Brock Bowers had to put on the proverbial Superman cape and win that game for us, right? We've seen it. So you got to have respect for the environment. And I also think that this Auburn roster this year is in a lot better shape than it has been the last 3 or 4 years. They have some legit dudes at receiver with Cam Coleman going into sophomore year. That guy is explosive. He's as good of a receiver in that class as anyone not named Jeremiah Smith. Eric Singleton Jr. coming over from Tech is a big-time transfer portal win for them. They have a defensive difference maker in Keldrick Falk, who's a big-time pass rusher off the edge for them. I think they've upgraded the talent at quarterback with bringing in Jackson Arnold. He's also a great fit for the Hugh Freeze offense traditionally, but the deeper we got in this offseason, the closer to the season, the more questions I have of this Auburn team. Like, to hear Hugh Freeze talk openly about how he's essentially manipulating practice and scrimmages in order to allow Jackson Arnold to have more success because the guy has low confidence and they're trying to build his confidence. that sends alarm bells going off in my head. If I'm an Auburn fan, I'm freaked out by that, right? And now they're gonna have like 3 different play callers for each different down, first, second, third down. It's weird stuff, man. And I just think Jackson Arnold has all the makings of a head case. I don't think all the issues at Oklahoma last year were on him. They had a crazy rash of injuries, but when things went sideways, like you could see he was a deer in the headlights. And maybe he turns that around this year, but I don't know, man. With some of the talk coming out of Auburn, like from their head coach. But here is one thing that does concern me. They have a better roster, and they get a bye week before this game. We do not. It's not a mutual bye week thing. I'm a big believer in bye week advantages. I really am. All right. More so when the talent is pretty equal, which is not exactly the case here, but I do think it's an advantage for them. I just still ultimately think Georgia has a better roster, is a more talented team. And I also think the lead up to this game and how tough this game will end up being, I think might have a lot to do with how Auburn fares early in the season. Guys, they can easily 2-3 heading into this game. Easily. They play week 1 at Baylor on Friday night. They play at Oklahoma, at A&M back to back. They could win one, maybe two of those games, but I think best case scenario, they're 3-2. Easily could be 2-3. I mean, all three of those games on the road easily could be 2-3. And Hugh Freeze is already on somewhat of a hot seat coming to the year. That talk could really ramp up if they start the season 2-3. Maybe they come out of that bye week, trying to have their coaches back and they come out swinging. That's one way to go. But I think the other way to go is probably more likely. And that noise that they'll hear all during the bye week will really negatively affect their play, especially with who is behind center. With Jackson Arnold being a head case of sorts, seemingly with all that talk, if they don't have a lot of success early in the season, maybe they talk about benching him because they brought in the guy from Stanford as well, Ashton Daniels. So he get a shot. And that just it messes with your head, man. So I think Auburn's gonna be a more formidable opponent this year, but I think the Dogs still win this game and get out of there some way, somehow, get out of there with a W and get to what would that be? That would be 6-0, right? All right, game 7, Ole Miss. It's Ole Miss, guys. So what does that mean? It means great offensive skill talent. Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, that's what it means. They lose Jackson Dart, who I thought was one of the better quarterbacks in the entire country last year, if not maybe the best. I thought the guy was awesome. Lose him, but they do have Austin Simmons, who a lot of people are high on. Their coaching staff is high on him. They didn't really go out and pursue anybody in the transfer portal because they believe in Austin Simmons. I do think that we maybe have gone collectively as a college football fan base. I've gone a little too far anointing him as like the next guy based off one drive against Georgia. It's a very small sample size, but he is talented. I will certainly recognize that. He's, by all accounts, a really smart guy. I think he's already graduated like 2.5 years. Smart guy, good player, athlete. I think they'll be fine there. They also brought in some talented receivers, lost some guys, but brought in some talented receivers. And guys, again, it's Ole Miss. Offense is what they do under Lane Kiffin. They always have good offenses. Lane Kiffin, Charlie Weiss Jr., that's how they do things. But here's my concern if I'm an Ole Miss fan. They load up again at the skill positions. They're talented there. But where they didn't load up this season, the way they did a year ago, is along both lines of scrimmage in the trenches. And I know what happened last year, guys, in Oxford. I was there. It sucked, okay? I am very well aware of what happened. But I was also in Athens just the year prior to that when Georgia smacked Ole Miss in the mouth by a score of 52-17. I was there for that game too, which is what finally hammered home to Lane Kiffin. If you just hear the guy talk, and he's talked about this openly, that's what kind of hammered into his head that, oh yeah, I got to address the lines of scrimmage. I can be great at the skill position as a quarterback, but if I can't block anyone, if I can't stop the run game, we can't beat teams like Georgia, right? So they went out and got guys like Walter Nolan Jr. and Princely Montmielen last year, and they were freaking awesome for them. They were really, really good. Well, those guys are gone. Those were rent players for 1 year, and they didn't replace them with the same caliber of player from the transfer portal this year. And we already have evidence of what happens to Ole Miss in settings like this in Athens. It could be a 3:30 game, it could be a night game. Fingers crossed for a night game. We have evidence for what happens to Ole Miss in a game like this, in a place like this, on the road, against a team like Georgia, who has a clear advantage along the lines of scrimmage, which I believe Georgia will have this year in a way that we just didn't last year. We were also banged up on the offensive line last year. That didn't help. But we have that advantage. We have evidence. What does that evidence tell us? Good night. All right, Georgia's going to win this football game. I feel very comfortable saying that. So, dogs win this one. And honestly, guys, I'm going to go as far as saying I think Georgia wins this game comfortably, not by 52-17 necessarily, but I think that we win this one comfortably. You don't have to sweat too much. And we get a little bit of a measure of revenge from last year's game. All right, moving along here. So that's 7-0. Game 8, Florida. Another one, man, that I have been very concerned about all offseason. Another team that I have no love for. I hate Florida. I'm going to be real with you. I don't like them, right? But I also try to be as objective as possible. And I watch a ton of college football during the season, off season. I do a Scout the Enemy series on the audio side of things every single year, and I dive deep into all these teams. Go back and watch all their games from the previous year to get ready for it. And I think this Florida team is very, very talented, and they showed what they can do when they're kind of healthy towards the end of last year, knocking off both LSU and Ole Miss at home late in the year. I think this Florida team in 2025 is more equipped to push Georgia in a way they really haven't been able to since like 2016. If we're talking about like non-COVID years, I know they beat us in 2020 COVID year. Like, it is what it is. Yeah, we lost that game, but if we're going non-COVID years, I think they're more equipped to push us this year in a way that they haven't since like 2016. Why? Because they had the quarterback. DJ Lagway, guys, when healthy, physically has got the goods, man. Like they found their guy. He's really, really, really freaking good. He's really good. Now I will say, last year's a freshman. He's a freshman. Showed all the skill set that you could possibly want. The physical tools are there. I think he struggled to see the field, which is not uncommon for freshmen. The LSU game is like case in point. Did he throw picks in that game? If you look at the stat line, you're like, no, I played well in that game. He didn't throw any picks. Guys, go back and watch the game. He threw 3 balls like directly in LSU defender's chest, and they just dropped all through. In fact, they dropped because it was like so alarming. Like it was so shocking that he threw the ball to them. Because I'm talking guys like completely missed these guys in coverage. Just didn't see him. He's not seeing the field. He locks on to receivers sometimes, a lot of the time when he's going through progressions, and he doesn't see the field. And so that was a problem for him last year. They got by with it, but they probably shouldn't have in that game. Now, when you dial one up and you scheme him open, and the guy's running wide down the field, Lagway is going to hurt you because that dude is lethal down the field with his arm. I mean, he's got athleticism as well. So they got the guy at quarterback. They got a strong duo running back led by Jaden Ball. I think it would be good to maybe very good on the offensive line. I think they have a nice wide receiver core, maybe not elite, but a very solid, good group there. They have a certified difference maker on the defensive line in Caleb Banks, who came on crazy strong at the end of last year. I think, was it 3 sacks against LSU, I want to say? They also have a couple of other talented vets on that defensive line, on that defense in general. No more Austin Armstrong there to screw things up, calling plays defensively. Ron Roberts, who kind of took over about halfway through last year, he's the guy all season this year. Their schedule is tough, but I think if Florida stays healthy, it's a much better football team, guys. But that's the thing. That's a huge question, especially with the most important player on their team, DJ Lagway. By the time we get to this game, what will his status be? He missed all the spring in games last year because of an upper body arm/shoulder situation, missed all the spring practice, didn't take any reps in the spring, was cleared once we got in the summer months, but then early on in fall camp, goes out with with calf soreness, tightness, which might not seem like that big of a deal. Oh, he'll be fine. Just give him a couple weeks. Guys, that is a precursor for Achilles injuries. Okay, I don't wish anything on anybody. I've had Achilles injuries, guys. Not fun. Sucks. So I don't wish that on anyone. Not even my worst enemies. Not even Florida people. Right? I don't wish that on them. But I'm just telling you, you got to watch out for that because you can think it's fine, but then it crops up on you, especially when you're cutting and planning like that. I mean, you've seen it with some of these basketball players, guys. Like, look at the NBA Finals with Tyrese Halliburton. It was calf soreness at first, right? What happened when he kind of pushed a little too far in Game 7? Yep, versus Achilles. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I really hope it does not happen to Lagway. But you got to be careful, man. Like, this guy just has had some injuries. And beyond that, even if he does stay healthy, I think it's also fair to wonder where is he developmentally? Because again, I think he had trouble seeing the field last year, going through progressions. He's a young quarterback, talented but young. He needs reps. He needs developmental time. He didn't get any of that. No reps in the spring. Very limited reps in fall camp. So he missed all that developmental time. Now, by the time we get to Georgia, if he's healthy, obviously he'll have had 7-8 games there, so he should be more of a rhythm. But I still think he lost a lot of developmental time there, and that could hurt them to a degree. I think that's a fair question to ask. So I, all in all, think this is a landmine of a game for Georgia. It is. It is an absolute landmine in the middle of our schedule. But I do think that this is where the Kirby Smart effect comes into play. This is where I trust him more then I trust the guy on the other sideline and Billy Napier. Billy Napier is a fine coach. He's not Kirby Smart. All right, we know that. And I also think Georgia has more depth. Like Florida's done a better job recruiting. He's really increased the talent on the roster based on what they had with Dan Mullen, but it's still not the same as Georgia's, right? We still have more depth. Our depth has been cut into, but we still have more depth than just about anybody in the SEC, and certainly more than Florida has right now. So I see this as we get this point in the season, some injuries. I think Georgia's more equipped to handle those injuries. I do see this as a tight game, a very tight game that could go either way. It would not shock me if Florida wins this game. I'm going to say that right now. Florida's a good football team. I have respect for them this year, but Georgia is the program right now with proof of concept. Doesn't mean Florida can't win it, but if I'm predicting, I'm going to go with Georgia. I still think Georgia has a better overall roster. Florida's closing the gap some, but Georgia's still, their roster's still in a better spot right now. So I'll take the Dogs in a tight one to get to 8-0. Mississippi State, let's run through this one real quick. It's a funky environment. Yes, if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. But it's weird. I don't think it's an intimidating environment. You think it would be with the Cowbells, that they're the only school in the SEC that's allowed to use artificial noisemakers, which, like, okay, I guess it's Mississippi State, so who cares, right? But I don't think it's an intimidating environment. It's kind of cool to go visit to see it, but like the town, not great. But anyway, the only thing I would say about this game is like where it falls. It's a trap game spot right between Florida and Texas. You got Mississippi State. So it could be a letdown situation. It's college football. Those things happen. But even so, guys, I just don't think State has the horses to pull the upset. A lot like Kentucky. They might make it closer than it should be because of where it falls. But at the end of the day, I just don't think they have the horses to actually finish the job, right? They do get Blake Shapen back in quarterback, which I think will help. I think Anthony Evans, transferring from Georgia, will be a nice addition. They basically run the same offense that Tennessee runs, that deep option offense, where a slot receiver is a major weapon, a premium weapon for them, and Anthony Evans is going to fit into that nicely. His blocking, like he's not going to be asked to do it the way he did at Georgia. He was asked at Georgia, which was not a good look for him. So I think he'll have a good year and be a weapon for them. But the talent gap is just so wide, guys, and they're also going to be coming off a 3-game stretch of at Florida, Texas, at Arkansas. It's a noon game already announced, so no night advantage there. Dogs get to 9-0. Simple as that, with a huge matchup with Texas looming, which brings us to the big time, epic matchup. First time Texas coming to Athens. And like Bama, this is two very evenly matched teams. We saw that last year, certainly more so in the SEC title game. But this time, it's in Athens. I think it's going to be at night. We don't know that for sure yet, but I honestly, I don't see how it's not. I'm surprised they haven't already announced that as a night game, but we'll see when we get there. But this is, regardless, night or not, this game we played in Athens, in a stadium that Georgia has not lost in since 2019. Now, that streak will end at some point. That doesn't mean that Georgia's going to win for the rest of time, but it's been a long time, y'all. A long time. And the Dogs did knock off Texas twice last year, so Georgia wins, right? Is that how this goes? Maybe. Maybe. Who knows, right? But I will say Georgia could easily win this game. Just like Georgia could easily beat Alabama. I'm predicting Georgia to beat Alabama. But I think this is the game, guys. I hate to say it because I know everyone's already anointing Texas as the saviors of the SEC. They've apparently already gotten to the mountaintop without actually ever having won the SEC or ever actually beaten Georgia. So I hate to say this. I don't feel good about it. But I do think that this is the game on the regular season schedule that the Dogs most likely drop in 2025. Not because Texas has some superior roster to Georgia. Again, I think that the talent is relatively even. There's spots where Texas is better. There's spots where Georgia is better, right? So relatively even rosters there. I'm giving Texas the edge here. I know it's in Athens. I know. And that is a huge advantage. Like I said, it would be for Alabama. So I know I'm kind of talking about both sides of my mouth here, but hear me out. Hear me out. The setup of this game just favors Texas. In Athens or not, okay? We're going to come into this game off of a streak of Ole Miss by Florida at Mississippi State, okay? Texas, like Auburn, gets a bye week before the Georgia game, a non-mutual bye. They have a bye week. We do not. I think that's a big advantage, especially more so when it's a team like Texas and the talent edge is very, very close. The margins are very, very tight there. And they're coming into that game off of a stretch of, get this, guys, whew, at Kentucky. Oh, my God. At Kentucky. At Mississippi State. Whew, Vandy at home, bye week. Guys, the SEC could not have possibly given Texas a softer lead-in to that big time matchup in November than what they gave them. They could not possibly have given them an easier setup. I'm not saying like I'm not calling conspiracy, but dear Lord, what? What? Okay, all right. So when you factor that in, again, with two teams that I think are so even from a roster standpoint, I think things like that matter in college football. I watch a lot of college football like you do. I see it year in and year out. Do I think there are legitimate reasons Georgia can win this game? Yes, I do think. If you think Georgia's going to win this game, I think there are legitimate reasons to think that Georgia can win this from a matchup standpoint. Texas loses basically their entire offensive line, and that offensive line a year ago had a lot of trouble blocking Georgia last year, although Georgia's sort of losing some pass rushers as well, so it goes both ways. They lose a number of impact defensive linemen, Barron Sorrell among those. They lose their best player in the secondary, and Jade Barrett. They lose their two biggest weapons in the pass game, in Matthew Golden and Gunnar Helm at tight end. And I think that Georgia absolutely can have success rushing the passer again this year. We lost some players rushing the passer, but I like what we have. Bringing in Ella Mendoza, Chris Jones kind of stepping up there. Use some of our linebackers off the edge, Chris Cole, Justin Williams. I think we'll be fine there. Gabe Harrison, a factor in there as well. So I think we can have some success rushing the passer again. But there's some differences here, guys. Unlike Quinn Ewers a year ago, Arch Manning is a mobile quarterback that can better mitigate the advantage we might have rushing the passer. And I think one of the reasons we beat Texas twice last year is the matchup was great for us defensively. What does Georgia struggle with defensively, at least the past couple of years? Quarterbacks that can pose a threat in the run game, right? It gets our eyes all over the place. It screws up our numbers. It forces us to bring guys in the box, creates one-on-one opportunities on the outside. It just gives us fits. It has, like with true, legit threats running the football. Now, Arch Manning is not Jalen Milroe. He's not that, but he's a lot more athletic than Quinn Ewers. They brought this guy in for run game packages last year, guys. So I think that will make it a tougher matchup for us than Ewers was a year ago. Ewers, a sitting duck like that at the quarterback position, is an offense that Georgia feast on. Like you saw last year, both games, we got after him and we disrupted him consistently, right? That in large part happened because like we won against their offensive line, but their quarterback could not create outside the pocket. He was kind of a sitting duck there. Arch Manning is not the same guy. And I know not everyone's buying the Arch Manning hype. I believe he's going to be really good. Heisman Trophy good. I don't know that, but I think he's going to be really good. Kind of like Gunnar. I think the floor is high, ceiling, we'll see. But what I can say is the skill set he has is a guy that can escape and create outside the pocket, which is a thing that Quinn Ewers could not do. So it makes it a little bit of a tougher matchup for us in this game. And again, I go back to it. That bye week for two teams that are very, very evenly matched is huge. And when you also factor in their head coach, Steve Sarkisian, is an offensive mastermind. You give this guy an extra week to prepare, he's going to throw some wrinkles at Georgia and be able to find some holes in our defense that maybe other teams haven't exploited. And he's going to throw that out there in the game. And in the first half, like, we better have an answer. And we're going to have to adjust on the fly. But that is something that certainly concerns me in this game. So could Georgia win this game? Of course, right? It's a toss-up game to me, just like the Alabama game is. I'm giving Georgia the edge against Alabama. But in this one, for the reasons I laid out, I'm going to give Texas the slight edge here. I'm going to predict the home winning streak to end. I hope I'm wrong. I hope to God I'm wrong here, guys. I really do. But I got the Dogs losing that one and going to 9-1. All right, Charlotte. I'm going to spend no time here. Guys, Charlotte has won 20 combined games the last 5 years. So not a math guy, but I can do that math. That comes out to 4 games a year that they're winning on average. They're not good. They got rid of their coaching staff, brand new coaching staff. Charlotte doesn't have a chance, right? Georgia's going to win that game. Go to 10-1, which sets up the rivalry game, clean old-fashioned hate. Georgia Tech, this time not at Bobby Dodd in Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the first time. Interesting, right? But look, I have a lot of respect for Brent Key. I don't like the guy. All right, let's differentiate. Respect and liking someone different, but objectively, I have respect for what Brent Key has done with that program. He's done a heck of a job there. He spent some time with Saban, not as much as Kirby, but spent time with Saban like Kirby did. So he's built that program in a similar fashion. Physicality, just like Saban did, right? Establish the run game, play strong defense, although they're not as good on defense because they don't have those kind of players. But I think Tech is going to be very good this year. I do. I think Tech is a legit ACC title contender. They might not win it, like Clemson, but I think they can get to the ACC title game. Look at their schedule, guys. Their conference schedule, I think they can get there. It's pretty favorable. I think they're good, all right? And, of course, as we've heard all offseason from the Georgia doubters out there, Tech pushed us to the brink last year, as far as you could go without beating us 8 overtimes, right? I still quite have not quite recovered from that game. A piece of my soul is still in that stadium. We won, but like I left something out there in that stadium, guys, last year. So they pushed us last year. We know that. They also returned a lot of key pieces from last year's team. Haynes King at quarterback, Malik Rutherford at receiver. Yes, they lose Eric Singleton Jr. He transfers out to Auburn, but they bring in a guy from FIU. His name is Eric Rivers, who's almost a 1,200-yard receiver last year. Really explosive weapon at receiver as well. So I think they're going to replace that production from Eric Singleton fairly well there. Justice Haynes at running back. And again, like this has been a popular upset pick this offseason. People saying, well, Tech almost beat Georgia last year, which I mean, yeah, they did. That's a true statement, but I cannot go that far as to pick Tech here. Here's why, guys. Yes, they almost beat us last year. I mean, yeah, I almost died. Okay, I think I did die a couple times. Came back to life. I'm here. All right, but what people when they talk about that game last year, what they fail to factor in is the context surrounding that game. It's a lot of it. Okay, Tech snuck up on us. All right, that was. I know it's so cliche. That was their Super Bowl in Georgia. Like we had our eyes in the SEC title game. Sure, whatever. But there's a factor there. But more importantly, guys, we didn't think Haynes King was going to play. If you had been paying attention to Tech, like we were previewing that game leading up to it, Haynes King had basically not played for like 3 weeks. Aaron Philo, the freshman, was the guy playing, and Haynes King was doing they would put it because his show he couldn't throw the football. So they would put him in there like in running situations, but it became too obvious that when he was in, they're going to run the football. When Philo was in, they're going to throw the football. That they just couldn't play. And then one time against NC State in the week, something on Thursday night leading up to our game, and which gave him a little bit of an edge too, extra day to prepare, but whatever. But they tried to call like an RPO, and and the guy was wide open. He tried to throw it to him, and it was a pass like 6 yards in the flat. And he threw the ball like 2 yards past the line of scrimmage. He couldn't get the ball out there. So I was like, I watched that. And I was like, there's no way he's playing. And our coaching staff watched that. And when Philo was in the game, the other quarterback, it was a totally different offense that they were running. So when you have a limited amount of time, it's a Friday game, by the way, right? So we had one less day to prepare. You have a limited amount of time. So it's hard to prepare for two quarterbacks. And when you think the guy and Haynes King is probably not going to play because he basically, after they couldn't throw the football, they're like, we're just not going to play in the rest of the game. So it's to the reason we're going to prepare for Philo, right? And then they tried out Haynes King to open that game, and he played every single snap and could throw the football too, right? Well, that caught us off guard. You can say we got to be prepared for that. It's hard when the guy hadn't been playing and had not been throwing the football. So there's context there. We were not prepared. But that's the reality. We weren't. I know I'm making excuses here, but I think there's some context there that people don't count when they talk about that game. But here's what I think is going to happen this year, guys. This year, Tech will have our undivided full attention in a way they just did not a year ago. We also, barring injury, know who the quarterback is going to be. So we can prepare not just the week of the game, but all year long. We do some sessions, but certainly do bye weeks, spring practice, fall camp, preparing more for that offense. Now, it is a tough offense to prepare for because with the quarterback run game, numbers in the box, it allows them to take the numbers edge, right? Because now the quarterback's a runner, the running back's now a lead blocker, you're optioning off guys, it becomes tough. And that creates a lot of issues. It creates matchup problems on the outside, more one-on-one looks. It's tough. And also, Buster Faulkner is a good coordinator. He also spent a lot of time at Georgia, so he kind of knows our defense in a way that other coordinators don't. Has a little inside information there. We know him too, but he wasn't calling plays at Georgia. Was involved in the game plan, but wasn't calling plays. So I think that's been an edge for them. But I think Georgia is going to be ready for this game. It's in Mercedes-Benz. Technically, it's a Tech home game, but guys, like even when it's in Bobby Dodd, you know how this works. It's going to be filled with red. It's going to be filled to the brim with red. Georgia will win this football game. All right, I fully do believe that. Could Tech beat us? Like, yeah, they almost did last year, so it's not crazy to suggest they could. But for the reason I laid out, I think Georgia wins this game to end the regular season and ends up 11-1 to end the regular season, making the SEC championship once again. And I think winning it for the second year in a row. But we'll talk more about that as the season progresses goes. So there you go, guys. That is my game-by-game prediction for the Georgia Bulldogs in 2025. Again, I know that I'm going to be wrong no matter what I say. Some of you are going to think I'm too high on Georgia. Some will think I'm too low on Georgia, right? It's the nature of the beast when you do things like this. So let me know what you think. Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? What did I get right? What did I get wrong? What are your predictions for this Georgia football team? I'd love to hear from you guys. And again, all you Georgia diehards, this is the kind of content you can expect all season long here on this channel. So do yourself a solid. Subscribe right now, like, comment, all that stuff, guys. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you supporting this channel. So thank you, guys. Appreciate you. I'm Tyler. And as always, go Dogs!
Man, is there going to be some property destroyed tonight. 26-21. Dogs on top.